Don't react. Wait until your sister leaves, my fiancé whispered, holding something behind his back. In that dim attic, covered in dust and forgotten memories, I never imagined he'd find anything, let alone this. A wedding photo, old and yellowing, but it wasn't mine, it was hers. Same dress, same date, same man. My life, it seems, was rehearsed by someone else first. I thought I was the chosen one in my family. But what if I was just a replacement, a stand-in? I don't know who to believe, but I swear this. I'll dig until I find the truth, even if it shatters everything. The Morgan estate always glowed brighter in autumn. Amber leaves blanketed the winding driveway like nature's red carpet, welcoming family members to yet another grand gathering under the same heavy roof. As I stepped into the main hall, laughter spilled through the high ceilings, and soft piano notes danced between voices. My sister, Rebecca, stood at the centre of it all, graceful, poised, magnetic as ever. Guests flocked to her with champagne flutes and flattery, like moths to her carefully curated flame. I smiled, nodded, and played my part as the quieter one. But tonight, I wasn't just Rebecca's younger sister. I was the bride-to-be. At least that's what I kept telling myself. "Darling," my mother called softly, her hands gliding up my arms. "You look radiant tonight. You've always been the light of this family." Her voice was honeyed, deliberate. I melted into the praise. I always did. "Thanks, Mom." She leaned in closer. "I'm so proud of the life you've built. You've made all the right choices." That line stuck with me longer than it should have. I drifted through the party like a well-behaved shadow. Mark, my fiancé, stood by the fireplace, deep in conversation with my father. I could see the tension in his jaw, the polite smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. We'd only been here for 2 hours, but I could already feel his discomfort settling in. Later, when the guests filtered out and silence replaced the music, we escaped upstairs. Mark reached for my hand, pulling me into the attic. "I just need some air," he said, "and space." The attic was cold, dim, and filled with the scent of cedar and forgotten paper. Mark trailed his fingers along dusty boxes. "Your family keeps everything, huh?" "Generations of hoarding," I joked. He paused near a cedar chest. "This one has your name on it." I frowned. I didn't remember ever having a chest up here. Mark opened it slowly. Inside were old cards, dried flowers, letters tied with blue ribbon, a photo album. He flipped through it casually, then froze. "Julia, look!" I stepped closer. In his hand was a photo, aged, fragile, but unmistakably clear. A bride in white lace holding a bouquet of lilies. Rebecca. But the gown. It was identical to mine. Down to the beading on the sleeves, the veil, the vintage necklace, everything. Mark turned it over. A date was scribbled on the back. Our wedding date, the same date we had chosen months ago. I felt something shift inside me, like a door creaking open that I never knew existed. Downstairs, I found Mom humming in the kitchen, slicing strawberries with the care of a surgeon. "Mum," I said, holding out the photo. "What is this?" She looked up. Her face didn't change. Not a blink, not a tremor. She took the photo gently from my hands, turned it over, and smiled. "Oh," she said, "that's an old costume party. Rebecca dressed up as a bride once, years ago." I stared at her. "A costume party?" "Yes, she was always dramatic." She folded the photo and tucked it into her apron pocket. "You're overthinking, sweetheart." She patted my cheek. Don't let silly things distract you. Your big day is coming. Everything will be perfect. I nodded, but the weight in my chest didn't leave. That night, while brushing my teeth, Mark leaned on the doorframe. "Can I ask you something weird?" "Sure. Did your sister ever get engaged?" I paused. "No, not that I know of. Why?" He shrugged. "Just feels like déjà vu." We didn't speak after that, but I didn't sleep either. The next morning, curiosity gnawed at me. I went back to the attic alone. The sun barely reached the far corners of the space. I sifted through more boxes, tracing labels with my fingertips, school records, old awards, letters addressed to Julia in handwriting I didn't recognize. Then I found it. A small box wrapped in floral paper, long faded. Inside, a worn leather journal. My name, Julia Morgan, etched on the cover. But the handwriting wasn't mine. I flipped through the pages, my pulse quickening. The entries were intimate, emotional, full of longing and resentment. There were lines about someone trying to be good enough for a mother who always preferred the other, notes about feeling erased. I turned to the last page. A single sentence stopped me cold. They said if I became her, maybe then I'd be loved. My breath caught. I clutched the journal tighter, heart pounding in my chest like it wanted out. I backed away from the box, from the journal, from whatever version of the past I had just tripped over. A creak behind me made me spin around, but no one was there except a mirror. And in that mirror, I swear, for a fraction of a second, I didn't recognize myself. I returned to the journal the next morning, hands trembling as I flipped back through its pages. The ink had faded, but the emotions bled through as if they'd been written yesterday. And there it was again, halfway through an entry dated 15 years ago. Mum said the name Julia brings bad luck. So I had to become someone better, someone cleaner. I blinked at the words, rereading them as if my mind might find a different meaning, but it was there, plain, brutal, irrevocable. I brought the journal down to the kitchen, clutching it like a piece of evidence. "Mom," I asked, holding it out, "why would someone say this? Why would someone be told to change their name to mine?" She turned from the sink, the sun slicing her face in two. One side warmth, the other shadow. "Where did you get that?" "In the attic. It's..." She rushed forward, tried to snatch it from my hands, but I pulled back. "Did you tell someone to become me?" Tears welled in her eyes instantly. "Is Mark putting these things in your head? He's poisoning you against us, against your own family." "Answer me, Mom." She turned away, pressing a shaking hand to her mouth. "You don't understand. He's dividing us. He wants you all to himself." Her voice cracked. I'd seen her cry before, but not like this. This wasn't grief. It was fear. Later that day, Rebecca found me in the garden, her arms crossed, jaw tight. "You're snooping around where you shouldn't," she said. "I found a journal." "I know. I saw it in your hands." Her tone was laced with disdain, her voice quieter now. "I always knew you wanted to be me, but you're not. You're just a broken copy." The words stung sharper than I expected. "What are you talking about?" I asked. She stepped closer, invading the space between us. "You were the charity case, the pity project, and no matter how hard she tried, she could never make you me." Then she turned on her heel and walked away, leaving me reeling in the scent of her perfume. That night I paced my room while Mark sat cross-legged on the bed, laptop open. "I found something," he said, and spun the screen toward me. It was an old family video. buried in a shared drive that should have been empty. The footage was grainy, taken from a camcorder maybe 2 decades ago. It showed the living room, a man's voice off-screen, my father's, and 2 girls, one older, one younger, standing side by side. The older girl leaned in and whispered something to the man. Mark turned up the volume. We listened closely. "She's not my real sister," the girl said. "She doesn't belong here." My stomach turned. "Pause it," I said. "Go back." He did. We watched again. It was Rebecca, and the little girl next to her, the one fidgeting, clutching her dress, was me. I didn't remember this day. I didn't remember any of it. That night I waited until my father was alone in his study. He sat beneath the dim glow of the desk lamp, flipping through papers, glasses sliding down his nose. "Dad," I said, "why would Rebecca say I wasn't her real sister?" He looked up. His eyes were tired, sad. "You've been digging," he muttered. "Too much." "Is it true?" He stood up slowly, walked to the window, and placed a hand on the frame. "Some stories, they're best left buried." I stepped forward. "I deserve to know." He didn't face me when he said it. "Don't dig into the past, Julia. It will only hurt." And then he left the room. The next morning, Mark came into the kitchen holding a white envelope. "I did something," he said. "You might hate me for it." I froze. He placed the envelope on the counter. "I sent in our DNA, just to be sure." I tore it open with shaking hands. Not a biological match. Rebecca and I weren't sisters. I dropped the paper like it had burned me. Mark caught me by the shoulders. "I didn't do it to hurt you, but something's off here, Jules." Later, when I confronted my mother, she didn't deny it. "You're not my blood," she said. Her tone was flat. "You're the daughter of a woman I hated. But I tried. I really did." "Why?" I asked, voice barely audible. "Because Rebecca was slipping. I needed balance, and you were so easy to mould." My knees buckled. I sat on the floor, chest tight. The image of my childhood, every bedtime story, every birthday cake, blurred into something unrecognizable. All my life I thought I was chosen special, but I was just convenient. Later that night I returned to the journal. My hands trembled as I flipped to the last page. At the bottom, a signature in familiar handwriting. Rebecca. I stared at the name. The journal I thought was about me was hers. The memories, the pain, the identity crisis, it belonged to her. But then again, didn't it also belong to me? I found her in the greenhouse, Rebecca. Kneeling among the orchids, her fingers deep in the soil, dirt streaked across her cheeks like war paint. She didn't look up when I stepped inside. "I know everything," I said, voice hoarse. "The DNA, the journal, the truth." Still, she kept working, plucking weeds like they were beneath her attention. "I'm not your sister," I continued. "You knew that all along." She stopped. Slowly she turned to face me, her lips curled into something too wide to be a smile. "You're not very quick, are you?" she said, standing. "But yes, I knew from the beginning." "You let me believe it. You let me live a lie." She laughed, a low, guttural sound. "You didn't live a lie. You were one." I stepped back, stunned. "I wrote that journal," she said, walking toward me, "but I signed it Julia, because back then that was my name." I couldn't breathe. "They made me change it," she whispered, "after the accident, after I pushed her." "What?" She tilted her head. "They said it would be easier, that if I became Rebecca, no one would remember what I did, and if you became Julia, no one would question who you were." I shook my head. "No, that can't be." She stepped closer. "They erased us, rebuilt us, like paper dolls. And you," she poked my chest, You were the blank one, the easy one. A sharp pain bloomed in my chest, twisting deeper than anger or betrayal. I was a child. So was I. She walked past me, disappearing into the house, leaving only the scent of damp earth and decay. I wandered back to my room in a fog, collapsing onto the bed like gravity had doubled. The walls felt thinner, the air too thick. Who was I? Later that evening, a knock tapped against the window pane. I opened it to find no one, but on the sill sat a white envelope. No name, no address. Inside was a note. She did it to both of us. No signature, just that. I stared at the words, my mind racing. Who wrote this? What else had she done? For the next few days, I didn't sleep. My dreams were filled with flickering images, hospitals, screams, my mother's voice singing lullabies that ended in static. Mark watched me unravel from a distance. "You need rest," he said, handing me tea I didn't drink. "You're slipping." "I'm discovering," I corrected. He exhaled, rubbed his temples. "I don't know who you are anymore, Jules." "Neither do I." He didn't say goodbye when he left the next morning. Desperate for answers, I visited our old family doctor, Dr. Halverson. She was retired now, living in a cottage surrounded by wind chimes and lavender. She squinted at me as I sat across from her. "You look familiar." "I'm Julia Morgan." Her face went still. "Morgan? I believe you treated me, and Rebecca." Her eyes darted to the floor. "That was a long time ago." "Please," I begged, "I need to know the truth." She hesitated, then rose and disappeared into the back room. When she returned, she held a worn file folder. "I shouldn't have kept this." Inside were 2 files, both dated the same year, same address, same parents, same birthday, but different names. Julia Morgan, Rebecca Langston. One of them had a diagnosis, dissociative trauma. Suspected personality dissociation following a family incident. "Which one was me?" I whispered. She shook her head. "I don't know anymore." The ground felt like it shifted beneath me. I stumbled out of her house, clutching the folder like a lifeline that kept unravelling. By nightfall, I had only one place left to go. The old mental health facility stood on the edge of town, abandoned now but still humming with the ghosts of its past. I had to see it. I had to feel it. Inside, the air was thick with mildew and silence. My footsteps echoed down the hallways like memories trying to catch up. A door creaked open. I turned, and there she was. An old woman wrapped in layers of blankets, sitting in a dusty wheelchair, her eyes locked onto mine. "You came back," she rasped. "Becca, you came back." My heart dropped into my stomach. "I'm not..." But the words died in my throat. She held out a trembling hand. "They said you forgot." "But I knew. I always knew." I didn't know whether to run or fall to my knees. She smiled. "She made you forget, but you were never gone, just buried." I stared at her, shaking. She didn't look familiar, and yet she did. Was she a patient, a nurse, or something more? My name echoed in my head, both names. Julia, Rebecca. Which one was mine? "I'm Julia!" I screamed into the mirror, fists clenched, breath ragged. My reflection stared back. Same eyes, same face. But it didn't feel like me anymore. Inside my head, her voice answered, calm and cruel. "No, my sweet, you are Rebecca, and you've always been." My mother's voice. I clutched the edge of the sink, knuckles white. "Stop it," I whispered. "Stop calling me that." But the memory played on repeat. Her lips curled in false compassion, whispering bedtime affirmations into my ear when I was a girl. "Rebecca is gone now. You're safe. You're Julia now. How many times had she said it? How many times had I believed? The VHS tape was buried deep in the basement, hidden behind old books in a locked drawer. I'd only found it because something instinct, fury, fate had pulled me there. The label was smudged, but I could make out 3 letters, JLR, Julia Langston, Rebecca. I inserted the tape into the player. The screen flickered to life with static, then settled. A home video, shaky, grainy footage. My mother, in her younger years, was holding a little girl in her arms, bruised, dazed, barely conscious. She fell, my mother said into the camera. It was an accident. Rebecca fell down the stairs, but we've decided it's best she start over. She turned to look at the child. From now on, she's Julia. Off-screen, a voice, my father, asked, "Are you sure this is the right way?" She'll forget. They always forget. The camera zoomed in on the little girl's face. Her eyes fluttered open, and for a second, she looked exactly like me. Or maybe she was me. I backed away from the screen, heart pounding like thunder in a small room. My legs gave out and I slid to the floor. They changed us. They rewrote us. One Julia to survive. One Rebecca to erase. What kind of parent decides who gets to live and who has to disappear? I stumbled into the living room, needing air, needing anything but these 4 walls. I knocked over a box of old photographs. As I bent to pick them up, one photo caught my eye, my mother in a wedding gown, standing beside a man. I froze. He wasn't my father, but he looked exactly like Mark. My stomach twisted. I flipped the photo over. No names, no date. Just a lipstick stain and a smudged fingerprint. What the hell was going on? I didn't sleep that night. I didn't eat. I barely breathed. But by morning, clarity rose in me like fire. It didn't matter anymore what my name was. What mattered was ending this cycle. I won't let her erase me again, I whispered to the empty room. I started compiling everything, scanned pages from the journal, screenshots from the DNA results, the VHS tape now digitized. I called Dr. Halverson and recorded her statement. I wrote down everything I remembered from the patient in the old facility. I became my own investigator. I also found old photos of me and Rebecca, side by side, same dresses, same toys, different names written on the backs, in different handwriting, proof. Then I sent letters, one by one, to every guest attending our upcoming wedding. I titled the packet, "The Chosen Daughter of Family History." But that wasn't enough. I needed someone inside, so I went to find her, Rebecca, or whatever her name truly was. She sat on the porch swing, staring into the fog. When she saw me, her expression didn't change. "I need your help," I said. She arched an eyebrow. "You spent your whole life trying to be me. Why would I help you now?" I handed her the VHS still frame, the child's face, the voice. Her hands trembled. "I didn't remember that," she whispered. "Neither did I, but now we do." We sat in silence, 2 women unmoored from identity, from origin, from reality itself. "If we're nothing," she finally said, "then maybe that's the only freedom we have." I nodded. "Then let's break the damn cage." She smiled, for once, not with malice, but with something like relief. We made a pact. At the wedding, we would tell the truth together, not out of revenge, but survival. 2 days before the ceremony, I received an email from Mark. Subject, "Please don't." Message, "Julia, if that's still your name, I know everything now. I pieced it together. I'm sorry I left. But please don't expose this, not publicly. Don't ruin your life for their sins." I stared at the screen, heart twisting. He knew, but still, he didn't understand. This wasn't about punishment. It was about finally existing. I didn't respond, because on Saturday I would take the microphone in front of family, friends and strangers and tell the truth, every twisted, stolen, manipulated inch of it. The music stopped, not gradually, not with grace, but like someone had yanked the plug from the wall. The room fell into stunned silence. Rows of guests stared, half-seated, champagne flutes hovering mid-air. Mark stood at the edge of the stage, frozen. The projector buzzed behind me, its image paused on the last frame. 2 girls in identical dresses, names swapped in bold letters. I gripped the microphone. "My name," I began, voice trembling, "has been a lie." Gasps rippled through the room. Cameras turned off. Eyes sharpened. I was raised as Julia Morgan, but I wasn't born Julia, and the girl you know as Rebecca. She wasn't always Rebecca either. I gestured behind me. The screen flickered to life again, playing snippets of VHS footage, our mother's voice narrating the change like it was a bedtime story. "She fell," Mum said on the tape. "She was broken, so we made her new." Somewhere in the front row, Mum rose to her feet. "Stop it!" she shouted. "Turn that off!" But the screen kept playing. The images didn't care. "We were both rewritten," I continued, "because our mother decided one of us was worth saving and the other wasn't." Now murmurs swelled. Someone dropped a glass. My aunt covered her mouth in horror. "I've spent my entire life chasing approval," I said, not realizing I was living inside a character written by someone else. My voice cracked. I looked down at the cue cards in my hand. Then I tossed them aside. "I'm not doing this for revenge. I'm doing this so we can stop pretending." I turned to the crowd. "No more secrets. No more lies." Mum lunged forward then, pushed past relatives, stumbled up the stairs. Her face was pale with fury, eyes wild. "I made you!" she screamed. "You wouldn't exist if I hadn't fixed you." Security moved, but I held up my hand. "Let her speak." She faced the crowd now, not me. "These girls," she spat, "were broken. I took broken things and made something beautiful. I saved them." "Saved? You erased us," I said. She turned back to me, shaking. "I gave you a name, a life, a chance." I looked down at Rebecca, who stood silently at the foot of the stage. "You gave us a lie. Then it happened." Mum's knees buckled. She clutched her chest and collapsed in a heap. Guests screamed. Someone called for help, but Rebecca didn't move. She stepped forward, climbed the stage and whispered in my ear, "There's one more thing I never told you." We sat outside the venue as paramedics wheeled our mother away. I didn't ask if she'd be okay. I didn't care, not right now. Rebecca sat beside me, eyes locked on the horizon. "I wasn't supposed to tell you." "What?" I asked. She didn't look at me. "The fall, the stairs, it wasn't an accident." I froze. I pushed her. Julia, the real Julia. Her voice cracked, but she kept going. "I hated her. She got everything, and I wasn't enough, so I pushed her." I didn't speak. Couldn't. They told me she wouldn't wake up, that I had to be strong, that it would all go away if I just forgot. "But she did wake up," I said. She nodded. "But by then she was someone else, so they kept it that way." Tears slid down her face. "They didn't make me Rebecca. I did." I looked at her, not with anger, not anymore. Just sorrow. We'd both been children caught in a machinery none of us built. "I'm sorry," she whispered, "for all of it." I reached for her hand. "Me too." In the days that followed, everything unravelled. The engagement was over. The guests scattered. The house went silent. Mum was hospitalised under psychiatric observation. Dad disappeared into silence. Rebecca checked herself into a long-term recovery centre, far from town, far from all of it. And me? I packed a suitcase, not to escape, but to begin. No one stopped me. The morning I left, I sat by the window of a small apartment I'd rented in the city. Sunlight poured across the floor in thick gold ribbons. A laptop sat open on the table. My fingers hovered above the keys. The first sentence came easily. This story isn't about truth. It's about freedom. And maybe that was all it ever needed to be. The room was quiet, filled with the hum of soft lamps and the scent of tea steeping in the corner. Julia sat across from a girl no older than 10, her arms folded tightly around herself, eyes cautious and flicking toward the door every few seconds. The session had barely begun. Julia leaned forward gently. "You don't have to tell me everything, not today." The girl said nothing. "I only want to ask you one thing," Julia continued. Who do you think you are?" The girl looked up. "I don't know." Julia smiled. "That's okay. Most people don't. But you know what I've learned?" The girl shook her head. "That your name isn't the most important thing. What matters is who you choose to be from today forward." The girl's shoulders softened just a little. Outside the therapy centre, the streets of Portland were damp with spring rain, and the wind carried the faint scent of jasmine. Julia walked out into the grey afternoon, her heels clicking on the sidewalk, her breath steady. She wasn't hiding anymore. After the wedding debacle went viral, someone had secretly recorded her public confession. Julia had become an unexpected voice for those silenced by their own families. She was invited to speak at conferences, asked to contribute to trauma therapy research, and had opened a small clinic specialising in identity distortion and familial psychological abuse. Her inbox overflowed with letters, mostly from women and girls. My mother told me I was always the broken one. I don't know if my memories are real. Thank you for saying it out loud. But one email stopped her cold. Subject, "I think I owe you something," from unknownsender88@gmail.com. Message, "I was once someone called Mark, but I didn't have the courage to stand beside you when it mattered. I chose safety over truth. I've lived with that silence every day since. I don't know what my name is now, but if you ever want to know what really happened before the attic, Julia stared at the message, her thumb hovering over the reply button. Then, slowly, she closed the laptop, not out of anger, out of peace. Some stories don't need more chapters. She bought the cottage on the edge of town, blue shutters, white roses, and a tiny wooden sign. She painted, herself, the hearth. Here children came, not to forget, but to remember differently. Some had been abandoned, others were running from shadows they couldn't name. Julia didn't try to fix them. She just gave them space to breathe. One boy, Leo, asked her once, "Why don't you tell us your real name?" She laughed. "Because I have more than one." He nodded solemnly, as if this made perfect sense. In the evenings, after the dishes were done and the younger kids were asleep, Julia sat at her desk and wrote. Her memoir took years. It wasn't linear. Memory never is. But the final title came easily. The Chosen and the Forgotten. The first sentence. This story isn't about truth. It's about freedom. On the anniversary of the wedding that never was, Julia stood before her bathroom mirror. Her hair was greyer now, but her eyes held fire. She looked herself in the face. For the first time in years, there was no echo of another voice in her mind. No whisper telling her who to be. She smiled. "What's your name?" she asked her reflection. The mirror said nothing, and neither did she. She reached out, flicked off the light, and let the silence embrace her. Somewhere out there, someone will read this. Maybe they'll think Julia was me. Maybe they'll think she was someone else. Maybe they'll think she was them. And maybe they'd be right. Because sometimes the deepest stories don't belong to one person. They belong to anyone who has ever been rewritten, renamed, erased, and chosen to live anyway,